We live in a world that's just full of ambiguity, of gray areas, right? So how do we find our way? Well, today, we're going to dive into a really profound prophetic teaching that acts like a life compass. It's this incredibly simple sentence, but wow, the implications are huge. It offers a direct path to clarity, to confidence, and to a real sense of inner peace. Let's get started.
Okay, so here it is. This is the heart of our whole conversation. This comes to us from Al-Hasan ibn Ali, the Prophet's own grandson, who said he memorized this directly from the Messenger of Allah. Leave what makes you doubt for what does not make you doubt. And just look at how simple and elegant that is. It's not some complicated formula. It's a direct, actionable command. This statement is going to be our foundation for figuring out how to navigate all of life's gray areas with certainty and with faith.
All right, so what's our game plan for unpacking this powerful statement? First, we'll start by understanding just how important this hadith is in Islamic tradition, its esteemed status. Then, we'll get into the core rule it gives us, always choosing certainty over doubt. We're going to see how this is a huge, comprehensive rule for all of life, not just for one or two things. After that, we'll clarify how it fits in with piety and with things that are already clearly lawful or unlawful. And we'll finish up by looking at the beautiful spiritual result of all this, the incredible tranquility it brings to a believer's heart.
So, you might be wondering, what's the big deal about this one short sentence? Well, it's way more than just a nice piece of advice. Scholars actually consider this hadith to be a pillar of guidance in Islam. Its brevity is its genius, really, packing so much wisdom into just a few words. And understanding its high status helps us appreciate the depth of guidance it's offering us. So, let's break down why it's held in such high esteem. For starters, it's seen as a major foundational principle for how we should deal with doubtful matters, things the scholars call shubuhat. Second, it gives us a crystal-clear rule for practicing what's known as al-wara. Now, al-wara is this amazing level of piety where a person doesn't just avoid the clearly forbidden things, but they also steer clear of the gray areas, just out of a deep consciousness of God. This hadith is the how-to guide for that. And finally, it doesn't just stand on its own. It fits perfectly with other key teachings, creating a really complete system of guidance.
Now this idea gets even clearer, even more powerful when you put it side by side with another really famous hadith, this one from An-Nu'man ibn Bashir. That hadith says, "The lawful is clear and the unlawful is clear, and between them are doubtful matters." You see, it perfectly identifies the problem for us, the existence of these murky gray areas. Think of it like a doctor giving you a diagnosis. Then our hadith from Al-Hasan comes in and gives you the prescription, the active solution. Leave those doubtful matters. So one defines the problem and the other tells you exactly what to do about it. Together, they're a complete game plan.
Okay, so from this one hadith, we actually get a fundamental rule. And it's not just for Islamic law, but for life in general. This principle is really the engine driving the whole teaching. You always prioritize certainty over doubt.
This is what scholars call the rule of al-yaqeen, or certainty, and it's such a powerful tool. It means whenever you're at a crossroads and one path is cloudy with what's called riba, that nagging feeling of doubt, that unease, and the other path is clear with the yaqeen, or certainty, the command is simple. You always leave the path of doubt and take the path of certainty. It becomes your safe harbor in any storm of indecision.
Okay, so a natural question is, does this just apply to stuff like, whether some food is okay to eat? And the answer is a big, resounding no. The absolute beauty of this prophetic guidance is that you can apply it everywhere. So now we're going to see how this principle stretches way beyond food and drink and into every single corner of a Muslim's life.
And that's the thing. The scope here is massive, and that's on purpose. Think about it. Your acts of worship, your business deals, how you carry yourself every day, your relationships, all of these areas have moments where things aren't so clear. This principle is like a master key. It unlocks the right way forward in any of those situations and helps you build a life that's standing on a solid foundation of certainty.
All right, let's make this super practical. Let's take an example from our worship. So imagine someone is thinking about combining two prayers, say Dhuhr and Asr, because they think they have a good reason to. That's a situation. But then that little voice of doubt kicks in, right? They start thinking, is my excuse, this work meeting or this trip I'm taking, is it really a strong enough reason religiously to combine my prayers? That right there is the riba, the doubt. So what's the yaqeen? What's the absolute certainty in this picture? Well, the 100% certain, undisputed fact is that each prayer has to be performed in its own specific time. So applying the hadith is easy. You leave the doubtful action, combining for the certain one, which is praying each prayer on time. And boom, you have instant clarity.
So this might bring up a question. You might be thinking, okay, does this mean I should just start leaving everything, even good stuff, just in case? And that's a great question. This next part is super important because it clarifies that this principle of leaving is meant specifically for the gray areas. It works differently when we're dealing with things that are already black and white.
And this table here really breaks it down for us. First, you have the purely lawful, or al-halal al-mahad. The rule here is clear. You should not abandon it. Why? Because there's no riba, no doubt involved. Leaving something that's clearly okay isn't real piety. Then you have the other side, the purely unlawful, al-haram al-mahad. This, of course, you absolutely must abandon. But the key thing to notice is the reason why. We leave it because its prohibition is a matter of yaqeen, of certainty, not because we have some doubt about it. So that command to leave what you doubt applies squarely to that fuzzy area in between these two extremes.
So we've talked about the rules and the practical side of things. But honestly, maybe the most beautiful part of living by this principle is what happens inside. It's about the state of your heart. This isn't just about making the right choices, it's about finding a deep, lasting sense of peace in the choices that you make.
You know, the heart of a truly sincere believer is kind of like a really sensitive compass. It just can't find rest or peace, what's called tamanina, when it's dealing with ambiguity. That little feeling of, I'm not sure about this, that's not a bad thing. It's actually your spiritual GPS working. True, deep peace is only found when the heart can finally settle on what is pure and clearly lawful. So this principle is a direct road to finding that inner quiet.
And this is where we see a really stark contrast between two different states of the heart. On one side, you have the truthful believer, al-mu'min as-siddiq. Their heart is alive, it's sensitive, it feels a natural unease when things are ambiguous, and it only finds real comfort in what's clearly lawful. But then on the other side, you have the sinner, al-fajr. Their spiritual sensitivity has become numb. Their heart doesn't feel any unease even when doing things that are explicitly forbidden. This teaches us something so important. That feeling of unease you get in a doubtful situation, that's actually a sign of a healthy, living faith.
All right, so as we start to wrap this up, let's just pull together the incredible lessons from this one short statement. It's really a roadmap from a life of confusion to a life of clarity, from anxiety to tranquility.
So what are the big takeaways here? What do we need to remember? First and foremost, the core command is to always, in everything, choose the path of certainty over the path of doubt. Second, remember this is a massive, universal rule for your worship, your money, and your character. A huge point is that true piety, real taqwa, is about carefully leaving the doubtful, not about making life hard by abandoning things that are clearly lawful. And finally, the best part is the ultimate reward, a heart that's filled with tranquility and peace, totally confident in its choices before God.
So I want to leave you with something to think about. Take a real look at your own life, your job, your relationships, your habits, your finances. In what area could you apply this principle? Where could consciously choosing to leave what makes you doubt for what doesn't make you doubt bring you a greater sense of clarity and ultimately a greater sense of peace? Thank you for joining us.